Coming up today on The Link, we have a very special show for you. Congressman Drew Ferguson will be in our studio talking with Mark Whitlock about everything he's doing in Washington, so stay with us.
Welcome back to The Link. We are delighted to welcome to the set of The Link Congressman Drew Ferguson, our 3rd District U.S. Congressman. Congressman, welcome to the set of The Link.
Thank you. I'm awfully glad to be here this morning.
We are delighted that you're here. Things are rocking and rolling in Washington. We're glad you're home, and we wanted you to talk with us about what you're doing. May I start with a little bit about your bio? You're newly elected to Congress, and you have hit the ground running. Help us in this area of the 3rd Congressional District recall all the great background you've got that lends itself to the work you're doing in Washington.
Well, my background was being a practicing dentist in West Point, Georgia. Yeah. After attending the University of Georgia, I went to the Medical College of Georgia and went to dental school. And after completing that, moved back home to open a family dental practice. And I was very much enjoying my life in the private sector and participating in our community and operating a business and making payroll and in providing health care to patients that I had become very close to. And then we saw what I thought were some pretty bad decisions out of Washington that really kind of almost destroyed our community. We saw textile jobs leave that had been the backbone of our community, and it was so painful to watch a proud community with a lot of diversity really fall on hard economic times. And that's really what spurred me to get into public service, is I wanted to be a participant in rebuilding our community, and that's what led me to the decision to run for mayor. Yeah. And we got involved in that in the revitalization of our community, not only the physical revitalization, but the economic revitalization, the human revitalization, to build a much better community. And we were successful in doing that, in creating jobs, creating the environment for the private sector to grow, and we've seen the benefits of that as we've had more and more people move into the middle class. I really had no intentions of running for Congress, and there was a moment where Lynn Westmoreland decided not to run after serving 6 terms in Congress and serving the 3rd District for so many years, both in the State House and as a congressman. And that, we had a conversation amongst our family, and one of the comments that my wife made to me, which was very poignant, is she said, "How many times did you say, if the federal government didn't make our community do this, or we had the flexibility to go in a different direction, how much better our community would have been?" And I thought to myself, I can either stay at home and complain, or I can become part of the process, and that's what led us to run for Congress.
Yeah, so you've got that terrific background, private sector business owner. You worked in local government, so you know where the rubber meets the road,
yes,
where government touches citizens in local communities. And you've been involved in maybe one of the biggest economic revitalization efforts that this part of our state has seen in a long, long time, the Kia project.
Sure.
You made a difference in West Point and in our entire region. Talk a little bit about what are the conditions on the ground that a company like Kia has to see in order to make an investment?
Well, having Kia come to our community was really almost a godsend. It changed the direction for so many families there. For the first time in probably a 15-year period, you saw a rebirth of the manufacturing base in West Georgia, and that is so important to communities. Communities can have a diversity of business activities, but having a manufacturing base in your community is so important, and that's why our community, and I say our community because it was a lot of people involved in this process over a long period of time, worked so hard to make this a reality. Yeah. But the conditions on the ground and the things that are important and what our business community tells us all the time is they need several things in order to be successful. Number one, they need the right tax environment. Okay, we need to do everything that we can as communities and as a nation to make this the most competitive place in the world to do business. And having a tax structure that allows our companies to compete globally is very, very important. The second thing that they need is they need a regulatory environment that is fair. Okay, you don't have corporations saying we don't want any regulations. We need regulations that make sense, and they need partnerships with the federal agencies to help make sure that they are in compliance, but they don't need that punitive environment where they're spending so many hours on paperwork that really doesn't change the outcome and really affect and does not affect what the regulatory legislation is trying to accomplish. The third thing, and I think this is something that if I had to pick one that was the most important in conversations, and that is education. Companies need great workers now, but they also need to know that they've got a pipeline of steady employees coming for 10 and sometimes 20 years on the billions of dollars of investment that they've made in a given community. That's why communities that are flexible, that are creative in doing things, and that begin to prepare our young people and our young adults to go to work in the 21st century economy, those communities are succeeding and doing well. Things that are happening here in Coweta County with the CEC, we saw that same success in Troup County with the College and Career Academy with the THINK College and Career Academy. It begins to create the mindset that you're preparing people to go to work. Statistically, we know that children that have great preparation and they have great skills when they graduate are going to be employed. Okay, we've got to make sure that our education system, K through 12, and let me say pre-K through 12, up through the technical college system and even into the four-year college system, that education system is in alignment with where our economy is going. So many of the great jobs that are coming online right now require a tremendous amount of technical expertise. And this is where we see the wage growth. This is where we see the opportunity for advancement. We saw it firsthand in West Point and Troup County when we saw people going to work in advanced manufacturing. It's the quickest movement we've seen of people into the middle class and upper middle class in generations.
Better salaries.
Better salaries because the jobs that are there require greater technical training. I think one of the things that I have seen is this mindset shift that says I have a career or a future in manufacturing. There's this idea that manufacturing is dirty, it's heavy, it's loud. You go into many of these facilities, it is state of the art.
Automated.
It is really an incredible experience, and that's why I think it's so wonderful that more and more young people are looking at advanced manufacturing as a career because the salaries are good, the benefits are good, the companies are fantastic to work with. I think it's a great future.
Yeah. Congressman, we're going to wrap up this segment and we'll be back for another one. But as we wrap it up, could you give us, you've laid out the conditions that caused you to get involved and go to Washington. Could you remind us as we end this segment, what are the committees that you're working on in Washington?
Sure.
Because your background is a real fit for those committees.
I am on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee.
Yeah.
I serve on the Education and Workforce Committee. I am also on the Budget Committee, and I am the freshman representative to the Republican Policy Committee.
And that is an incredible honor and distinction. We are delighted that you're representing the 3rd Congressional District. Congressman Drew Ferguson, we're going to end this segment, and we're going to be right back. So you stay tuned. The Link will be right back. Welcome back to this special segment of The Link with Congressman Drew Ferguson, our 3rd Congressional District U.S. Congressman. Congressman, in the first segment, you talked about your biography. You talked about the incredible background you've got that drove you to get involved in Washington and in the huge issues going on across our country. We ended that segment with you talking about the committees that you serve on. Can you help us understand some of the work that's going on those committees right now? Maybe let's start with education in the workforce. I think you have an incredible background for education in the workforce.
Well, that's been a fantastic committee to serve on. Virginia Fox is the chairman, and she is doing a great job of leading a discussion not only about the need to reform our education processes and really give more flexibility to the states and local communities to do innovative things like we're doing right here at the CEC in Coweta County. But also in that committee, we look at a lot of workforce issues, trying to give employers and employees flexibility in the workplace. I think one of the real challenges that we've seen over the years in all of the committees is that we try to create policy that one size fits all for all of America, and that simply doesn't work. I mean, a lot of what's right in Georgia may not be the right fit in Michigan, and that may not be the right fit in Arizona or the right fit in California. States need the flexibility to make decisions, and I think that's where a lot of that committee is beginning to go to is to look in those particular areas. Let states be innovative, let communities be innovative, and let communities design programs that meet their own needs.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular that's tangible that's coming out of education and workforce? Perkins Update?
The Perkins Act, of course, we are supporting that very heavily. We believe that bolstering our technical college system is very important. Georgia has a very, very special and unique technical college system, something that I think we're the envy of a lot of states. So doing things like that, again, with the Higher Education Reauthorization Act that's coming out, we're going to get an opportunity to look at student finance and student loans and how to make that more competitive and better for the recipient. And then of course, giving flexibility to the local communities and public education that allow them to design the programs. That's going to be something that comes out of the K through 12 subcommittee, and we're excited about those opportunities. We need children, families, educators, administrators, they all need flexibility within their communities to really get to do that alignment of the education system with our economy, as we've talked about.
Yeah. Transportation infrastructure. Are we going to get that big infrastructure bill that we heard the administration talking about?
Yes, that is something that I think almost all members of Congress agree on, that we've got to make some strategic public investments in infrastructure. Some of those will be geared towards repairs and maintenance, because we do have a lot of infrastructure that is crumbling, that's in bad shape. We're lucky in Georgia that we have more good than bad, but there are other parts of the nation that can't say that. So we're going to have to make some strategic investments, and we're going to have to look long-term at investments that the state and the federal government are making in Georgia, the deepening of the Savannah Port.
Right.
That is so important to our state and regional economy here.
Important to all the manufacturers here in our region.
It is. Yeah. How do we build the transportation network to and from that? Those are things that are being considered right now. Another one, the FAA Reauthorization Act is coming up, and that could be a significant change in how air traffic control is done. You know, if you go into any of our air traffic control centers, it is absolutely amazing the safety record that they have, the efficiency that they have, and now as technology has evolved, we've got a chance to make that even better. So that's something that I think is going to be on the horizon with transportation and infrastructure as well. And as you know, in the 3rd District of Georgia, aviation is incredibly important. We have fortunate enough to have thousands upon thousands of people that work in the aviation industry right here in the 3rd District of Georgia. So we want to make sure that that segment of our economy is robust.
I think everybody agrees that we've got to do something on tax reform.
Sure.
What's happening there?
I think that you're beginning to see a movement towards comprehensive tax reform that again is geared towards making this the most competitive place in the world to do business. Currently, right now, our corporations and our individuals are at a disadvantage. Our corporations aren't able to compete as well as they should on the global stage because of an unfair tax system. We have the highest tax burden in the world. And what happens is we produce and send things overseas. Those dollars, trillions of dollars that are held overseas, do not come back into our economy. This comprehensive tax plan is one way for those dollars to flow back into America. Individuals get a huge tax break with this. Simplification, you know, there's a chance with this tax reform to redo the IRS and to make it a customer service, customer friendly environment instead of what it is today, which is, you know, not something that everybody wants to get engaged with, quite candidly. So I think that tax reform is something that will get done. I think that it will come on the heels of a health care bill that begins to put us on the right track for reforming health care. I don't think that health care is going to be a single vote and claim it done. It's going to take years to get us where we need to be. It will be. But I believe that Congress is committed to going down that road, listening to constituents, taking their ideas and incorporating them into those health care bills.
You know, as we wrap up this segment, got to congratulate you and your team, the great job fair that you had in Troup County and LaGrange. Talk about things like that and the whole of constituent services that you and your team provide to the 3rd District.
Well, it begins with the belief that I'm elected to serve this district, and our district staff executes every single day in that mission of serving the constituents, interfacing with government agencies that they are having difficulty with. Some of it is just simple learning how to negotiate the federal process. Some of it is they've hit, truly the constituent has hit a roadblock with an issue. So we're doing everything that we can to make sure that people have access to good services so that they can get the things that they need. The job fair, you mentioned that. What a remarkable opportunity. We had 84 of our employers participate in that job fair. Had 2,450 jobs available.
Wow.
We had over 750 people show up.
Wow.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yep.
And I've said this several times. If I, as a mayor or a county commissioner, came up and said, we have 2,400 new jobs available in the West Georgia area, in the 3rd District, it would be the #1 news story with a new company coming in for days. Now think about it. We announced 2,400 jobs at that job fair. And what that tells me is we've got to do a better job of connecting our workforce with the employers. There are talented people in the 3rd District of Georgia. There are great jobs available here. We've just got to make sure that they're connected and have to be honest with ourselves and say maybe some of the ways that we've been doing it in the past aren't working, because we know people want to go to work. We know people want to advance. They want better jobs. Those jobs are here. We've just got to get folks connected. Opportunity,
Congressman Drew Ferguson, the man on point in the 3rd Congressional District in U.S. Congress to help us take advantage of that opportunity. Congressman Ferguson, thank you for being with us on TheLink. Thank you for your service. We appreciate what you're doing, and we look forward to having you back on TheLink.
Thank you for letting me be here today. It really has been a pleasure, and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you so much.